The North Gauteng High Court has declared Higher Education Minister Nzimande's decision to place the University of South Africa under administration unconstitutional. Nzimande announced his decision last week after an independent assessor found corruption and maladministration at the institution. The assessor's report emerged as university leadership found itself at loggerheads with the minister over the appointment of an administrator to run the institution. There's also been a wide-ranging investigation into several of UNISA's procurement projects.
Professor Ahmed Bawa is a professor at Johannesburg Business School at the University of Johannesburg, and the former UNISA CEO. He joins us for a discussion around the situation at UNISA. Very good evening to you, Prof. Thank you so very much for joining us here on SABC News, sir.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Prof, your initial reaction then to the North Gauteng High Court declaring the Higher Education Minister's decision to place the university under administration unconstitutional. What are your views there?
It's very worrying because it is totally within the power of the minister in terms of the Higher Education Act to have an assessor placed at a university to do an initial investigation, and then on the basis of that to have to decide whether there should be an administrator appointed or not. Several universities have had this kind of process, which has helped in most cases, I think. In some cases, maybe it hasn't worked as well as it should have. But generally speaking, where an administrator has been sent in, there's been progress made in bringing about stability and so on to the institution.
Yeah.
So it is worrying.
Yeah, can we get to a point where we can achieve some form of stability at UNISA? And I mean, we saw, that gradual decline of the situation there. You talk about the stability. Is this something that is possible where we're sitting at the moment?
Yeah, we have to just remind ourselves how important UNISA is in the scheme of things, in the scheme of higher education. I myself am a graduate of UNISA. I did my first degree through UNISA. And I know how important it is because I couldn't go to a university. It's just it's almost too important to fail, And I'm pretty sure that the minister must have taken that into account, in his deliberations. But at the same time, I think that what we can't have is kind of this ongoing kind of instability, ongoing kind of crises in terms of administration and management of programs and so on. What I can say, is that there are regular complaints from students, just about not being serviced in the proper way and so on and so forth. Yeah. So, and of course, what was also found by the assessor was a whole range of other administrative glitches, if you like. The purpose of the administrator, of the appointment of an administrator, is really to give the institution kind of the opportunity of pressing a restart button, if you like. Okay. Very often the challenge in governance at an institution is because of a discord between the vice-chancellor and the council. Sometimes it's the council overplaying its hand, in administration. Sometimes it's got to do with fractures in the council of institutions, and so the purpose of the placing an administrator in an institution is really to provide the opportunity for the institution to start up again, if you like, to appoint a new council, to determine the relationship between the council and the vice-chancellor and so on. And I think that that would have been very much top of mind, if you like, in the minister's deliberations.
Prof, having had this long history with the institution, starting out, as you say, as a student and, eventually being the CEO there at UNISA, I would imagine that you kind of saw where, the problems started and to where we are now. What do you believe to have been the biggest issue? What went wrong at the institution? If you were to look back and look at it, I mean, we're talking about wide-ranging issues. Investigations have had to take place, and you talk quite rightly about administrative issues and problems there. Then we're also then told about procurement projects that were problematic. But all of this is just what we're seeing now. This must have started somewhere. Where there's a root cause somewhere.
Flo, I must just clarify. I wasn't the head of UNISA. I was the head of Universities South Africa, which is the umbrella body. But I think you raise an important point, and the question is, when did the challenges actually begin? And I want to say that the challenges really began probably 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, 10 or 12, I should say 10 or 12 years ago. Because what you really had was the kind of a breakdown in governance, basically. So there were rumors about inordinate power in the hands of the unions. Regularly we had student uprisings, of course, student demonstrations and so on. By the way, that's not unique, of course, to UNISA. That happens in other places as well. But in particular, of course, the big challenges lay around the governance of the academic programs, where the students are actually being serviced properly and so on. And I think that we owe it to students, to try and ensure that they have the best possible chance of succeeding. And that seems to me to be the fundamental challenge here, which is to say, if the minister isn't going to have the power to do this, well, what are we going to do to make it possible for students to have the best possible opportunity to succeed? And as you might know, UNISA has a very, very poor throughput rate. In fact, it's by far the worst in the country.
And you talk about the students, and when you mention the fact that the institution is too big to fail, and that is quite an important point. I mean, if we think about the fact that we're not just servicing South African students, but this is an institution that is known, throughout the continent, globally. In fact, what do students do now in the meantime throughout these, while we're dealing with these problems? Because eventually we need to get out of it. But in the meantime, what then happens to students who, as you say, have been complaining about it trickling down to them, whatever's happening at the top?
No, my advice to the Vice Chancellor would be to focus very hard on getting the governance of the academic programs in good order. When I was at USAF, we had regular complaints from students on a daily basis almost, and I think that that's something that that the Vice Chancellor, in this interregnum, while we're still working out what we should be doing, the Vice Chancellor should really focus on getting the academic programs to function and to function well. Because at the end of the day, the university is about students, It's not about anybody else. It's about the students, and the students, should feel more secure that they will have the best opportunity, if you like, to succeed. I think the other thing is really, my advice again to the Vice Chancellor would be to say that she needs to kind of really tighten up on the governance issues relating to things like procurement and so on. And by the way, there's lots and lots of experience, at other institutions that struggled with this, but then have been able to put in place all the necessary systems and so on. So this isn't something that we have to start from scratch with. It's something that we just have to learn about how we can do with what has been done at other institutions. And we must just remind ourselves, that UNISA has about 330,000 students. We have to make sure that it works properly. It's probably the most important institution in the country.
All right, Prof, we appreciate your input this evening. Professor Ahmed Bawa, Professor at Johannesburg Business School at the University of Johannesburg. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Bye.